You're listening to Tripod, the Tricycle Creative podcast, produced for anyone interested in being a better digital and content marketer. Host Ross Erosion is a marketing coach, content creator, and entrepreneur who brings you helpful tips, social media updates, inspiring interviews, and his own unique perspective on how to tell your story and grow your business. So sit back, relax, and let's get pedaling.
If you're a regular listener of Tripod, you know Tara Johnson. She's my bookkeeper. She's got a throne of certifications: Profit First, QuickBooks, Fix This Next. In fact, you should pop on over to the Tricycle Creative YouTube channel to check out the video we did breaking down Profit First, a money management system that helps eliminate entrepreneurial poverty. And I'll also help you out. I'll put a link in the show notes at tripodpodcast.com. Well, a couple days after recording that video, Tara joins me again to record this 2020 Rewind episode. We're going to discuss the emotional impact of having a service-based business during a pandemic, how the acceptance of virtual meetings transformed her business, and her super cool note-taking recommendation that I think creative business owners will love. We join our conversation already in progress as Tara is really hoping that her dogs don't barge in to our recording. Dogs stay in.
Okay.
If your dogs bark, they stay in. That's the rule. That's the COVID rule.
Okay.
The dogs barge in and they rip up your papers and they're barking. Yeah, that stays in.
Like after last week, I and you and I
told you, it was a bigger thing than you thought it was, Tara. It was a bigger thing than you thought it was. Maybe I'm going to write that down as a title for this episode. Bigger thing.
God,
she thought it was. Then she thought it was.
The glass doors. Then I could see him standing there, and then I'm like to both Blaine and Sam. I'm like, I asked you guys for so little. I asked you guys for one thing: keep the dogs contained. And they're just like, well, we tried. I'm like, that was trying. I would hate to see it if you didn't try. Oh, good.
Tara, I have had the honor of actually in the last couple of weeks, we've connected and chatted a lot. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about Profit First, which is always a topic I love talking about. So if you're out there listening and want to learn more about Profit First, what the heck is Profit First? Do yourself a favor. You can either go back in this podcast and you can listen to the episode I did with Tara on Profit First, or you can go to the Tricycle Creative YouTube channel and watch our recent webinar all about Profit First. Links to both of those things will be in the show notes, tripodpodcast.com. Tara, welcome back.
Well, thank you for having me.
I'm always happy to have you. I am honored that you took some more time with me so that we could talk a little bit about 2020 on this little mini series, this 2020 Rewind, talk about your business and whatnot. So thanks for taking the time. So 2020, what a year. Let's start on the good. Let's start on the good and try to keep in that headspace. What's one good thing that happened to you or your business in 2020?
I really had the opportunity to kind of take a step back and evaluate my business, and was it operating in the way that I had wanted it to? I like to see my clients in person and build that kind of relationship. It wasn't always the easiest thing to do. So having just about everybody embrace virtual meetings like Zoom and whatnot, it kind of helped me step into that direction of going, nearly 100% virtual. And it really kind of helped people kind of expand their their minds of like working with a remote bookkeeper or profit strategist that doesn't have to be in your neighborhood. I mean, I have clients like all over the country, and that's expanding.
That's a hell of a commute for you to go in before COVID, you were driving to the East Coast one day. So you'd have to come back. It was really inconvenient. This is a recurring theme, not surprisingly, right? From many of the people I've talked to, Jamie Steele, productivity specialist, she talked a lot about this also, how this transformed her business this year, the people being more accepting of this virtual concept. And I would say to people out there, business owners and business receivers, that's not a thing. Customers, business receivers is not, I don't know what that is. That sounds like an old timey like phone supplier, like they make phone parts. That doesn't have to end when COVID goes away. I will remind people that the freedoms that they are experiencing with their business or personally, or the opportunities that it's creating, when COVID goes away, when it goes away, they will still be there. I just want to encourage everyone to remember that just because if and when the world goes back to quote unquote the old normal, we can still keep some of these things intact, right?
Right.
I just think it's important to remember, just to say it now, to start to plant the seed so it bounces around in people's heads. That you can keep doing virtual when you don't have to do virtual.
Right. Where I think that's going to change really, for the better, how people work. And it's really going to create such shifts on how people, how businesses operate and support their employees. And I mean, I could go down a total rabbit hole, but you think about how challenging it could be for, say, like new parents, and feeling like they have to get back to the office and have, leave their child or, new baby at daycare, whatever. And
at home alone to figure it out. I mean, that's how I was raised. So I don't know what the problem is. I only turned out marginally screwed up. So it's fine. It's fine. Well, I think also you're a bookkeeper by trade.
I am.
Tell me if you disagree with that. I don't want to miscategorize you, but I also feel like, I think there are also very real financial implications of for many businesses of maybe not needing a brick or mortar or not having an office, or and unfortunately there's a good and a bad of that, right? I mean, you do see a lot of I read a lot of articles over time, these I don't even say niche industries. They weren't niche, but industries of like, office supplying companies or vending machines, companies that go in and stock up vending machines in corporate offices, like that's going away, and corporate, and real estate and things like that. Like, I get it. Nothing is without its bad side, but I think that you need to look at what progress long term could be had from it, and very rarely is something a black or white. I don't think we don't have to stay virtual, but I think just remembering the pros, the things that the benefits that can come from it, because when I was talking with Jamie on you can check out that podcast. I think it was the last one, so you can check that out. We were talking about the commute time, right? And probably same with you. Let's just call something as an hour round trip. That's conceivably another client that you could do virtually.
That's right.
Right. And that's a big deal. It's a big deal. So we talked the good. Let's talk a little bit of I'll say bad, but I'm gonna make it more positive, and I'll say challenge. What was the biggest challenge that you had this year?
Well, surprisingly, and I'm sure nobody can relate to this, COVID was a challenge.
What?
Yeah. I mean, while it had like some financial impact on my business, it wasn't necessarily awful. Some of my clients what needed to scale back or decided to scale back, and maybe that cut into my services. But the hardest part for me was working with clients who were facing just significant revenue losses because of COVID, and just trying to support them through through it, and just the fear that they were facing, the fear of losing their business, their homes, just not knowing how long this was going to last. Were they going to be able to pivot? Were there other opportunities for them? That roller coaster ride was really not something that this bookkeeper necessarily has the skills to do. I am not. Gosh, I mean, it's just, my world is like so much more like black and white. Even though I have relationships, good relationships with my clients, just being that emotional support was
It's hard.
new.
I think everyone, or at least many of us, had to bust out new skill sets this year, or develop them, or seek them out,
Yeah.
right? In order for our businesses to survive, or even I would even extend that to say for our sanity to survive. I mean, I know we talked just personally several months ago, not at the very beginning, but kind of when we were in it a little, at like almost like a plateauing where it was the norm, where COVID was becoming the norm. And I remember that it was rough for you, because you were dealing with, you were taking on, and empathizing, and I think very much feeling the weight, understandably, that anyone who is a service-based kind of business, but I think you especially, because you are quote unquote close to the money, when they're having money discussions. I mean, money is oxygen for the business. Right. And money may not, be the most important thing, but it is the thing that will, again, it's what it's required to keep your business going.
Right.
And, I'm sure that you had many hard discussions, and, or even were the sounding board in ways that you probably never had to deal with before.
No. And just not having all of the answers when something came, the PPP money. It's like,
why you got to bring that up? Is this where you're going to call me out that I ask you every week if there's a forgiveness update? This is it. You're on my own show. You're going to be like, yeah, so I got this one client who every single week emails me. He's like, hey, is there any update on the PPP forgiveness? Well, okay, it's me. That is Ross Herosian. I do it. By the way, I do have a YouTube video about PPP forgiveness, so I'm going to send it your way. Just to, just anyway, I don't know. So, but yes, you're right. PPP was one of, I think, the most obvious, like every day. It still is. We're here. I mean, when we're recording this, it's All Hallows Eve. Spoiler alert. All right. And we still don't really have clear answers, on what the next step is. So,
oh my gosh, and like so many of the banks, so that like they had,
it's like a hot potato for them. They're like, I don't want anything to do with it.
They have their forms pre-printed, due by October 31st. It's like, what?
Wait, what? Yeah.
Why?
I don't. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I can appreciate how that. When you are looked at as the resource, right? And it's like, I don't have the answers because the answers don't really exist. It's not that I'm uninformed. It's that they don't exist. I don't know what the hell they are,
Changing. And for weeks, if not months, I was trying to keep up and trying to read what's the latest release. And then I just can't take this anymore.
On version 320, Tara gave up.
And I'm like, okay, well, last night, Mnuchin said this.
Like, when it's done, you'll know. I feel like it's like, you know what I'm saying? It will be a flare will go up and alert. Everyone will know for sure when it's ready. So let's talk about taking those challenges. What do you plan to change or improve about your life or your business? And again, I realize they're intertwined for 2021.
So, probably the number one thing, I really want to focus on the new enterprise of Profit Builders Group that I am working on with Chad Harlow. We're doing a joint venture to kind of do like more coaching, really bring profit first, like a profit first focused program. That is a huge focus for me. I also want to downsize my house, like move.
Whoa, downsize. So, okay. Right, or is it a right size?
It's, I like that better. Right size.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I left California and moved to Texas, I was like, I can get twice the house for half the money. And really all I got was a bigger house to clean.
Which has become more apparent now that everyone's at home. Is that what the thing is? Right. Maybe you want to give yourself like, again, when COVID is over, like 3 months non-COVID, to see, although the markets by then may be completely different, but okay. I like a right size. I like that. I like a development of like a new, particularly a joint business venture. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
good.
Yeah. So those are, I think a lot of people I've talked to have spent this time working, on the business, not as much sometimes in the business. Maybe their clients, customers haven't been as plentiful or what have you, but, it is a weird thing, maybe a double-edged sword that 2020 has been very contemplative for people,
It's, in some ways we seem to have like more time to kind of like step back and look at the business, take like a, I don't know, 10,000 foot view or whatever. I know there's an expression that I'm not getting done right.
Some 1,000 foot of a view. Yep.
And kind of just take a different look or look at our businesses from a different angle. And I think that's great. Sometimes you just have to step, further away from it to really look at it, instead of like looking at it from inside out, look at it outside in. And I haven't exactly experienced this, but some people say that they have like so much more downtime and so much more time available to focus on different things, to read a book or
to read a book, one book. You couldn't read one book during these whole 6 months. I don't buy it. Well, as you know, I just got back from just like a little bit of a long weekend. It took like a Sunday, Monday, 4-day weekend, right? Yeah. And I guess I can't tease you too much because, full disclosure, I don't know if I've read a book in this whole time, but I did polish off a book in that weekend. One weekend, polished off a book. Yeah.
Which book is that?
Well, here's the thing. All the more reason why I think I polished it off is because I usually read business nonfiction books. Like my wife teases me endlessly. If we were ever in a situation where she forgot her Kindle and wanted to borrow mine, there wouldn't be a thing on it that she would want to read. She's like, oh God, like this is the most boring Kindle ever. But I am a sci-fi nerd. So I did read a new, man, I don't remember the title of it. I can find it by the end of the show, but it was a science fiction book.
Like Nerd 5000, something like that.
Nerd, what was that title? Nerd Time 5000? Is that what you said?
Nerd Fest.
Nerd Fest. No, it was Nerd Fest 6000. It was the sequel, actually. It was about the book was about memories and how memories can actually be a conduit to time travel and alternate realities. Whoa.
Whoa.
Whoa, wah, wee, wah. But it was a really like I just ate it up, and I was like flew through it.
Even with all those big words in there.
I intentionally stayed away. Like I I am big on self-improvement, like
Mhm,
just continuous and curiosity
mhm,
and but I kind of came to a point where, particularly during the pandemic, where it was like, if I keep doing, I need to take a break,
yeah,
because if I I'm exhausting myself. Like I need to take that mental break before I mentally break.
mhm.
And so I made it very much a point on this vacation, like, okay, I'm not going to read any of my business. I'm going to read some, fiction book, just to like let my brain breathe, you know? And it was great. It was really great. So I think it's important to take those breaks. And again, it wasn't some couldn't be an extravagant vacation. We went to a beach house that we know hadn't been used during COVID. It was offered up to us by someone we know, and you know, it rained most of the time there, but it was just a nice change of scenery, and it was good. So I think I recommend more people do that. And even absent of COVID, I don't think enough people take the right amount of time off. We glorify, you know, how hard we work and everything like that, but you got to take those breaks.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I mean, I have I have been known to work, every day for
Mm-hmm.
months and seasons at a time. Um, but the past like month or so, I've really felt a need to clock out. I needed to turn the news off.
Yeah, yeah.
um, you know, uh,
There's an absence of perspective in 2020 also, where it's like, you are aware we're like going through a global pandemic, right? And it's just like, that is a thing. Like, that's an exhausting, very real, very heavy thing. Like, it's okay to like clock out at 3 o'clock today,
yeah,
you know? Like,
agreed.
and I would kind of argue that even absent of a global pandemic, it's usually okay. Like, I pretty much, whether my clients know it or not, I can't help myself, but I try to clock out around 4 o'clock, you know? But it's because I start working at like 6:30 a.m. It's still a long ass day. But I still make a point, like, okay, I'm gonna clock out at 4 o'clock, and here's what I do. I watch my Judge Judy stories. Everyone's gotta have their Judge Judy stories. They gotta have whatever that is. Maybe it's not Judge Judy, but you gotta have your thing, right? That just
Yeah.
brings you some joy. You can turn your brain off a little bit. Maybe it's that trash TV, which brings me nicely into my last question thing for you, and that is, what recommendations do you have for the listener, or for that creative entrepreneur out there? Again, this could be an app, a song, a movie, a video, a system, whatever it might be. What recommendations do you have?
Well, these days I'm loving my Rocketbook.
Rocketbook. Okay. I'm liking this because I have had another recommendation for like another organizer. So people who are into organizing, they're now getting options. Okay, Rocketbook. No, wait, that's not what is the Rocketbook?
It is an erasable notebook. So
It's like a dry erase notebook,
yeah,
right? You can like reuse it,
you can.
right?
Yep.
Interesting.
So because I am who I am, I have three of them, but I have each one has a purpose. And one of the cool things is that, I just spray it with a little bit of water and wipe it off with a microfiber cloth, and I can start over. It has every color of marker, every fine tip to wide tip to highlighter. So I love that. And then it has these I'm sure you know what they're called, but like these little symbol things on the bottom, and each one of those can
Buttons.
be
Are they called buttons? Is that
they're
the jargon term that I know?
okay.
Buttons?
Maybe, and then like you
Sure.
can mark each
Yeah.
one. I don't know. It has like this magic thing that you can use the app and snap a photo of it,
Mm.
and then it'll go directly into my Google Drive into like a pre-assigned folder.
Ooh,
I love
lovely.
it.
I love that. I'm
Oh,
also, I have something similar. It's not as fancy, although I think they have a fancy version. It's called Boogie Board.
ooh,
So we don't misunderstand. I know that's also like a surfboard thing. That's not what I have. It's called like a boogie board, and it's not so much dry erase, but you draw on it. It's kind of like, do you remember Wooly Willy, where you had the guy's face and you had a magnet and you could,
yeah.
so it's similar like technology, I guess. This is probably the worst. They would not want me being their salesperson, but it's like that, and you can press a button and like erase it. I do think they have, I don't have that version, but they have a higher end version that
Okay.
you can send stuff to the cloud and things like that. But
Mhm.
I'm with you. I can see the value in that because I'm constantly like
You're
doodling when I'm
I,
working with clients, or like not doodling, not listening, but like doodling, like, explaining stuff out.
mhm.
And like, how much paper do I want to use for this silly doodle?
That was my problem because
Yeah.
I I
You
need to
had scrap papers that were like, if I was to find it, I think it was hieroglyphics or something. And
yeah.
they couldn't be determined as some sort of cuneiform that people would, if aliens found it, they would spend generations trying to crack the code. Meanwhile, it would just be your doodles.
Exactly. But
So
it's
what is it called again? The Rocket Board?
a book.
Rocket Book.
You can get them like rocketbook.com. You can get them on Amazon, but I would normally have like 20 notebooks going on for
Yeah.
like different clients, different projects, different this, that, personal, whatever. And now I have 3. I can fit them in any bag. They're I just love them, and I'm constantly using them. I love them. They just make me happy.
Awesome. Rocket Book recommendation from Tara
Yeah.
Johnson, North Bay Bookkeeping. Do you have any other recommendations? And it's okay if you don't. I don't want to put you on the spot. But
Well, number one, I would say embrace Profit First.
word
Get
up.
the book. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I can get you a couple free chapters if you want to just dip your toe in the water. Loving
Oh, we
that.
are. You can
Uh,
get those actually if you go to Tricycle-Creative/Profit First, all one word. Again, Tricycle-Creative/Profit First. If you sign up for my newsletter, you will get the first 2 chapters absolutely free, courtesy of Tara Johnson from North Bay Bookkeeping.
that's right. So that's of course always my top recommendation. And what will be doing in the month of November is planning for 2021. I know that all those plans that we made for 2020 really didn't come into fruition necessarily. But I think just going through the process of planning um, takes your business to a higher level of just the control, the goals, defining.
I think there's something to the, if it's not on paper, it doesn't exist. Or if
Yeah,
it's not on Tara's Rocket Book, it doesn't exist. That's a modern swing on it. But yeah, I mean, I am, I do feel like that's a healthy exercise for people. Again, to your point, even if things change, and I just think the process of doing the mental exercise, the mental gymnastics sometimes that come with thinking about your goals and putting them down and revisiting them or what have you. I don't know. I think there's kind of a truth to also, if you don't kind of bring them into reality, right, then they're not going to exist. So I think you got to think about it and document them. And again, they'll change, and that's okay. I actually am doing the same thing. I'm going to hold it up for only Tara can see. This is a visual, some paper. Don't worry, it was a terrible visual. No one cares. But I have my goal sheet, and I started working on it a month ago, and then got some fatigue. And now I look at it again. I'm like, now I'm looking at it with a fresher set of eyes.
Yeah.
It's going to change a little. So I would actually recommend doing it in November, because honestly, come January, when you do really want to like kick it into full gear, you may be looking at it with a fresh set of eyes, or do it now, take a break, walk away, come back to it. If you do it in November, it gives you time to come back to it and look at it again and be like, are these right? Are these in alignment? I think that's a good exercise.
And there's an expression, and of course I'm going to get it wrong because that's what I do.
Here we go, folks.
Something about, what is it? Like a dream is just a wish until you put it in writing, and then it's a plan.
That sounds good. Let's go with that. That sounds like a thing. A dream is just a wish until you put it in writing.
Something like that.
Hold on, I'm going to write that down. And I'm going to attribute that to you. So there we go. Dream,
I think the eloquent
just
version of like Walt Disney or something, but it's something.
Write it down. This will be one of those scenarios where it's like the quote, like, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, Wayne Gretzky, Michael Scott. That's going to be Walt Disney, but as said by Tara Johnson. So,
if I see this on a pillow, I better be getting royalties.
I'm going to sell it on my Etsy shop. Spoiler, and I'm going to steal it. Tara, thank you so much for joining me on this 2020 Rewind mini-series on Tripod. As always, if you're out there listening, show notes and more episodes and more information on Profit First, if you want to learn about that, can be found at tripodpodcast.com. Where can people find you, Tara?
You can find me at northbaybookkeeping.com. You can click on the schedule a call with Tara, and we can talk about business. We can talk about Profit First. We can talk about bookkeeping. We can talk about Ross.
Don't book an appointment to talk about me. That's definitely not an appointment that Tara wants to have. She says it now. No one wants to have that appointment. This is the worst.
That one.
It's the worst. The only time she wants to talk about Ross is when Ross, her paying client, says, "Hey, can we have a meeting?" That's the only time. Well, thank you so much, and good luck with 2021. I'll be there along for the ride with you. So I'm excited to continue to, share your story and, have some more time together. And for everyone out there listening, I encourage you to keep pedaling.
Thanks for listening to Tripod. Be sure to subscribe and rate the show on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, Stitcher, or wherever you listen. Show notes can be found at tripodpodcast.com. Connect with Tricycle Creative on social media at Hello Tricycle, and learn more about how we can help you with your marketing at tricycle-creative.com.